everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Luisa. Don't you just love this necklace? I love the beads, I love the colors. These beads are actually from the Magical Mystery Bead Box from Jesse James for the month of February. The name of the box was called Farewell Tucson, and I made a lot of necklaces. This was one of them. So today I'm going to show you how to make this necklace. Don't be worried if you don't have these beads, because you can still make the necklace. And this is the perfect project for a beginner. So if you're a beginner, this is the video for you. If you're advanced, I still would like for you to watch it. I'd be honored if you would, because if you're anything like me, there's always something to learn from other people, no matter how advanced or how easy the project is. I always feel like I can never learn everything there is to learn about jewelry making. So I'm always learning. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and put this down. I'll get my bead tray and my tools and turn my camera around, and let's get busy. Before I let you know the materials you're going to be needing, I wanted to show you the necklace up close. Sometimes it helps when you can see what you're going to be building ahead of time. So as you can see, here's the main focal. I used some eye pins along the top of it, but along the bottom I used a piece of wire, and this piece of wire is 20 gauge wire. That's important because anything thicker than that will not fit through these beads. Okay, so whatever you use, just make sure that it fits through. I recommend a brand by Bead. This is 20 gauge wire, and it's German style wire, and it's medium temper, so it's very, very strong. So if you're concerned about this bending out of shape, I recommend you use that wire, but any kind of 20 gauge wire is fine. And like I said, I did use some eye pins here. And I actually have a big bag of head pins that I purchased, and they're very strong. So what I do is I take the head off and I turn them into eye pins. But whatever you use, you can use, just regular 20 gauge wire as well. Just make sure that whatever you use, that it fits through these beads. Okay, that's important. And then I did want to mention about these jump rings. These are very strong jump rings. These are actually 19 gauge, and I bought these from Rings and Things. They're 19 gauge brass jump rings in assorted colors, and I love these because first of all, you can't even see where the seam is. That's one of the reasons I like them. The other reason is that when you go to close it, and I don't know if the microphone will pick it up, but when you go to close it, it actually makes a snapping noise. Let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. All right, so it makes that little snapping sound, and then what's really nice about these is that you can't even see where the seam is. They close really, really well. You can't feel it, you can't see it very much. So these are excellent to use, okay? Because you want to make sure that whatever you use, that it doesn't snag on anybody's clothing. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you, before we go into the materials, another option in case you're wondering, well, maybe you've gone through the beads from the Jesse James February box, the subscription box, and you're probably saying, well, I can't do this, I don't have the beads. Well, you actually can. I made this necklace using beads that I just had collected through the years. I don't even know where I got them from. So just, pick some beads that are similar in shape, or, that are flat and similar in size. And then, just this necklace can be made with pretty much any bead, any type of bead. I didn't even use the flower tassels. As you can see, I used some other kinds of beads. So it is possible to do this with any of your other beads. Okay, so if you're worried that you don't have these beautiful, gorgeous beads from Jesse James, that's okay. Just, go into your stash and don't be afraid to use other beads. All right, let me go ahead and tell you everything you're going to be needing. Okay, let's go over the beads first. These are all from the Jesse James February subscription box, and it was called Farewell Tucson. Okay, so these are beads from that box, and the ones up here, all of these except for these are from the Tucson Adventure Mix. They came in this little container, and these are from the Tassel Mix, and this one is from the Metal Mix, this little hat right here. Okay, so as you can see, we have 4 of these gorgeous green colored, I think the shape is rhombus. It's a 4-sided shape, and it's flat. So you need 4 of those, and then 2 of these gorgeous rectangular beads, translucent in the same color. and then 2 of these elongated oval beads. I love these. And then 2 of the coin beads. They're not very big, but I think we got 4 in the box. So you need 2 of those. And then here's some bead caps that came with the box as well. You'll need 4 of these. Okay. These are actually going to fit over these beads here. I'm going to use them like that. Okay. And then you'll need one of the, it's that pretty olive green colored, bumpy, textured, rondelle shaped bead that came with the box. You'll need one of those. And then this one here, this is a creamy colored, this one's about 5 millimeters. And I think that one was 8 by 6 or 6 by 4. Yeah, I think it's 6 by 4. So you need one of each. And then of course you need the heart charm that came with a metal mix, and 2 of these gorgeous flower tassels in the peach color, and this beautiful, it's not a tassel exactly, it's like a rose, looks like a rose to me, but it has those stamens. One of my viewers said these are called stamens. It has them inside there, so I'm not sure what kind of flower that is, but it's a gorgeous dusty rose kind of a color. So those are the beads you're going to be needing. And now let's go over the rest of the materials. Okay, so you'll be needing 2 pieces of chain. Each one of these is about 4 inches long, but you're going to have to decide for yourself how long you want the necklace to be. I believe mine ended up being 16 inches. So if you want a longer necklace, obviously you'll have to use more chain. But you can figure that one out later on before you actually cut the chain. And as you can see, I've already attached a lobster clasp on one using a 4 millimeter jump ring and a 6 millimeter jump ring on this one. So then you'll also need 13 additional 6 millimeter jump rings, and as you can see, I've already linked 3 of them together. Let me just show you real close. So just to save time, I linked 3 of them together, and this is going to go in between the beaded components. Okay, so you'll need 4 sets of those, so that's 12, and then an additional one, so that's 13. And then you're going to need 12 of these 4 millimeter copper colored spacer beads. Let me show you a close-up so you can see what they look like. Okay, they're about 4 millimeters. And then 4 4 millimeter jump rings as well. And then a bunch of eye pins, minor head pins. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and take the head off and turn them into eye pins. However, you will need at least 1 head pin for the charm that goes on the focal. Okay, so you'll need 1 head pin, and the rest of them are going to be eye pins. Okay, now as far as the wire, like I mentioned before, for the lower part of the pendant, you're going to need a piece of 20 gauge wire. And like I said, if you can find the beadalon in a copper color, 20 gauge, medium tempered, that would be ideal because it's nice and hard. Okay, but any 20 gauge wire in a copper color is fine, and you're going to need about approximately a 4 to 5 inch piece. You're not going to need a whole lot because we're not going to do a wrap loop. The only wrap loop we're going to do today is for the actual charm, the one that has the heart that hangs off the center of the pendant. We're going to do a wrap loop for that, but the rest of it are going to be closed loops. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and assemble the little heart charm. There it is. And you're going to take one of your pins, one of your head pins, and you're going to thread it through the bottom. Okay, just like that. Okay, and then you're going to thread on the olive colored textured rondelle bead, and then the smaller 5 millimeter creamy colored bead, just like this. Okay, now we're going to do a wrap loop. Round nose pliers, grab the wire at the very top, give it a little kink, switch the positioning, so now you're grabbing it from the top, wrap the wire around the top jaw of your pliers, rotate your pliers around, continue wrapping around, so you have this. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and finish wrapping this. So get your flat nose pliers or whatever plier you feel comfortable with, and go ahead and give it a couple of wraps, just like that. Okay, and then of course you want to cut off the excess. Okay, and then after you cut off the excess, make sure you tuck in whatever burr is sticking out. We don't want anything sticking out. And this is what you should have. Okay, so let's put this aside for the time being, because now we're going to assemble the rest of the components. Components for the focal, the pendant. Okay, all right, so here's my head pin. I'm going to take the head off and then grab some pliers, give it a little kink. And I'm not going to make my loops very big. I'm going to make them kind of small because I don't want very large loops at all on this necklace. So you want to go ahead and grab your loop, your wire just like this, and give it a little turn until the other end touches. Make sure that it's nicely closed, okay? And there's your first loop. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and thread on a spacer bead, one of these rhombus shaped beads. I think the name is rhombus. And then another spacer bead. And you want to get your flat nose pliers, kink it. Okay, and then go ahead and cut off the excess. Get your round nose pliers and form your second loop. I wanted to insert a video here to show everybody who is a beginner how to do a closed loop. Sometimes I have a tendency to rush through things and I don't break down the steps properly, but I wanted to go ahead and show you. So I'm using different beads here just for demonstration purposes. But you grab the wire pretty close to the top of that bead, not right up against, because then you don't have any room to do that little kink. You want just a tiny fraction of a space so that you can kink it without shattering that bead. Okay, and then once you do that, you get your cutters and you want to cut the proper length. Now, what is the proper length? Well, it depends on the size of your loop. Everybody's loops are different. So what I recommend that you do is do a loop and then unwind the loop so you can figure out what the proper length is, okay? Some people measure them, some people just eyeball them. It's up to you how you want to do it, but you do have to figure out the length, okay, of wire that you need to give yourself. And then you got to figure out where on the nose of the plier you want to be. And these are actually tiny round nose pliers. I love using these because they make tiny loops, but of course you can use your regular round nose pliers. I like to use these because, like I said, they're tiny. So then after you figure it out, then you got to place your wire right on the spot that gives you the proper diameter of loop, okay? And I know that on my pair of pliers here, it's somewhere in the middle. And then you want to definitely put it in there so that it's right up against the edge, but not sticking out. Can you guys see that? You can see it, but it's not sticking out. Grab it really tight, okay? And then my wrist is actually in alignment. It's not contorted yet, but I will contort it a little bit in a few moments. And then give it a little turn. This is how I do mine. Everybody does them differently. Now at this point, I am going to go ahead and reposition, and this is where I get a little contorted with my wrist. So now I'm repositioning my pliers so that I have more leverage and more room to turn. That's why I contorted my wrist a little bit. And you may have to like reposition it a couple of times, let it go, and then bite down again. You want to keep turning it until the end of that wire touches the post, okay? That's the key. You want to make sure that it's touching the post. If it's not touching the post and it's not closed, then it's not going to be a very good loop, okay? But that's what you want. Let me just bring it up closer so you can see what I'm talking about. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's pretty close to the bead, so it's hard to see, but you want that loop to be you know, right up against the main post of that eye pin. And that's how you do it. And then if you have a set of pliers like these that have a little bit of a flat section, you can come in here and straighten it out if you need to. You can do the same thing with regular round nose pliers as well, because you want that eye pin to sit perfectly straight on the beads, okay? And that's how you do it. All right, let's get back to the video. Okay, make sure that your loops are facing the same exact direction, and that's your first component. Okay, so let's go ahead and do one more just like this, and I'll meet you back. So let's go ahead and assemble the bottom portion of the pendant. As you can see, I've already formed one loop at one end of this wire. So you will need a spacer bead, 4mm spacer bead, the rhombus, I think that's what that's called, and another spacer bead, and then the beautiful rose tassel, flower tassel, like this, and then another spacer bead, the rhombus, and another spacer bead. Okay, so this is what you should have, just like this. And now we're going to form the other loop. So again, we want to kink it at the end. Don't make it too snug, because the next thing we're going to do is bend it. So you need to have a little bit of give there, not too much. I have about, I don't know, maybe an 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Okay, so once again, we cut off the excess and we form our loop at the end. Make sure it's closed. And then the other thing you want to do is to make sure that your loops are pointing in the same direction. So make sure they're both pointing in the same direction. Okay, so now we're going to very gently kink this in this manner. And here's my cat saying hello. I don't know if you guys can see him. All right, so we're going to kink it just like that. Okay, let me remove my cat and then we'll keep going. All right, so I put my cat in his cat bed. Hopefully he'll stay there. Let's continue. Okay, so this part is actually pretty easy. What we're going to do next is we're going to attach these two rhombus components that we assembled earlier. So go ahead and get a 4mm jump ring. Open it up. Thread it through the loops of one of these components. I'm sorry, the loop of the bottom component. And then thread on that component that you assembled earlier and close it up. This is actually the easy part. It's very easy. And I like easy. I'm sure you do too. All right, so let's do the other side. Open up your jump ring, thread it on, thread on the component and close up your jump ring. All right, so now we have this. Okay. Now what we have to do is hang the flower tassels. So go ahead, put your piece down, and you want to see where those loops, how those loops are laying, because you want to make sure that you hang your tassels on the exact same loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab another jump ring, open it up, thread it onto a flower tassel, and then thread it on to the 4mm jump ring that you added when you connected these two components. Okay, and then hold it up to make sure that when you attach the other one on the other side, that it's on the exact same loop, the same side of the loop, I should say. Okay, that's important. So go ahead and get your other 4mm jump ring, open it up, attach the tassel, and then attach it to the 4mm that you used to connect the two pieces. Close it up, and so this is what you should have. Let me bring it up close so you can see how it's all attached. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Okay, so now that we've attached the bottom part, now we have to connect the top. And to do that, we're gonna use this larger 6mm jump ring, but we're not gonna do it just yet, because before we connect everything, we have to assemble the pieces that come up from this jump ring up the necklace. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our eye pins, and I've already formed the loop at the other end. I went ahead and took the head off and formed the loop just to save time, so we're not here forever. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is assemble the first component. So you'll need a bead cap, the long bead, the long oval, and another bead cap at the other end. Okay, you will not need any spacer beads for this one. And again, you're going to kink it, cut off the excess, and then form your loop just like you did before. Okay, make sure it's nice and closed, and make sure that your loops are facing the same direction. Okay, so go ahead and do another one just like this, and I'll meet you back. All right, so I formed my two components, and now we're going to go ahead and assemble this bead. So once again, get an eye pin, and you're going to thread on a 4mm spacer bead, and then this beautiful rectangular bead, and then another 4mm spacer bead, and kink it just like before. And you're probably wondering, why is she not using her one-step looper tool? Well, you know something, I don't want to call it laziness, because I'm not lazy. I just think that I'm more impatient than anything else, because I just find that, you know, using the one-step looper tool is so much easier. You have less steps. That's why it's called a one-step looper, and it's just a lot quicker. So that's the reason why. So if I'm doing a bunch of loops, a whole bunch of loops, then I will use it. But if I'm only doing a few, then I don't mind doing them manually like I'm doing right now. It's good to keep my skills going by doing them manually. Believe it or not, you do lose your skills if you don't keep them up. So anyway, go ahead and do another one just like this, and I'll meet you back. All right, so here are my two rectangular ones, and now I'm gonna go ahead and thread on this beautiful coin bead. I love these, I love the color. So again, you want a spacer bead, and then your peach colored coin bead, and then another spacer bead, and just like before, do your little kink and cut off the end. Sometimes when I'm tired, my loops don't always turn out uniform. That's another reason why I use the one-step looper. You know, it depends on my energy level. If I've been doing a lot of jewelry and my eyes are tired, you know, my loops end up all kind of wonky and different sizes. So that's another reason why I use the one-step looper. But anyway, it's always good to go back to, you know, the proper way of doing things. Okay, so here's your component, and now you're going to do another one just like this, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I'm back, and I have everything assembled. As you can see, I've got my jump rings all lined up. I've got the bottom piece of the focal set up. So now I'm going to go ahead and assemble that bottom piece. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is get a 6mm jump ring and thread it onto the loop, just like that. Then the next thing comes the charm. So that's going to lay in the middle. So put that on there, and then the other end. Okay, so now we're not done yet. Okay, this is just the beginning. You want to keep that jump ring open, because now we're going to thread on one of these long oval beads on one side, and let me grab it with the pliers. All right, so this is what you should have, just like that. And then on the other side goes the other one. Okay, just like that. And now, very carefully, you want to close up that jump ring. It's a little challenging because it's very loaded. You want to close it up so that everything is in its right order. Okay, let me just bring it up so you can see. This is what you should have. Okay, just like that. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and use these large jump rings, and as you can see, as I mentioned before, I did connect the 3 of them together. Okay, so grab one of them on one end, open it up, and very simply thread it onto the component. Close it up. Let me see if I can get that snap. Well, I felt it, but you probably didn't hear it, but it did snap. Okay, and then go to the other end. So now we have this connected. Go to the other end, open this one up, and thread on the green rectangle. Close it up. Okay, so now we have this. Very simple. Okay, so now let's grab another set of jump rings. And once again, we're going to open up the one that's at the end, thread it onto the rectangular bead component, close it up, and grab the other end, just like this. Open it up, grab your coin bead component, thread it on, and close it up nicely. So that side is done. That was very easy. Okay, so let's go on to the other side now. And since it didn't take long, I might as well just go ahead and do it with you. Open it up, thread it onto the loop, close it up real nicely, and then open up the 3rd jump ring. The rectangular component goes on next, and close it up. Check that jump ring. Always check. Make sure that it's closed properly so we don't have any problems later on. Okay, and then it won't be snagging on anybody's clothing. That's the other consideration. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and thread on the final component. Whoops, I did not do that right. I did that wrong right on camera, but that's okay. You know what, I'm not going to edit this out. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there so you can see that I'm only human and I make mistakes just like everybody else. Okay, so now we have the bottom part essentially put together, and that was very easy, as you could see. Okay, so now the only thing that's left is the chain, and like I said before, I like to wear mine rather short, and so mine is about 16 inches. This piece is about 4 inches. Okay, but again, like if you're not using these beads, like I said before, it may end up being a different length, so you need to make sure that it's the correct length for yourself. So this is 4 inches, my chain is 4 inches, so that's 8 inches on each side, so that makes it 16 inches. And that's how I like to wear mine. We're not going to use a jump ring, we're just going to go ahead and open up this loop and put on the chain right onto that loop, okay? And then let me get my other pliers. I love these pliers. They have a very small kind of tip, flat tip. And since my loops are tiny, it's easier to use this one. All right, so that's attached. And now I already attached the lobster claw clasp, as you can see. I used a 4mm jump ring. And then the other piece has a 6mm jump ring. So I already attached that. So we're almost done here. And this was a very easy necklace, very simple. Not too much fiddling. I know my hands kind of fiddle a little bit sometimes and it gets annoying for the viewers. but I'm trying to control that a little bit more so it's not too annoying for you. All right, so here it is, guys. It's beautiful. This necklace is gorgeous. It reminds me of Arizona. It reminds me of the Southwest. Just beautiful. So like always, I'm going to go ahead and put it on, and I'll come right back. See you in a little bit. Well, I had a great time making this necklace. This is the kind of necklace that it can be worn to casual events, more formal events. It's very versatile. And you can't go wrong when you're using the colors of nature, colors of green and peach and coral, and you just can't go wrong with those colors. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope I've given you some ideas. Please go out and experiment on your own. Use different colors, different beads. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.